This is the recording for Algebra and, of course, 1B, 1 through 5. So in problem number 1, we start out with a problem with some parentheses in the first line, and they seem to be gone on the next line. The goal here, by the way, is to circle the first incorrect step above. So we're just going to go through what they seem to have done and see if they did it correctly. So looks like they did distributive property, so we're going to check to see if they did that the right way. So 2 times 3x would be 6x, and 2 times 7 would be 14, and there you go, right there. Already, there's the problem. That should be minus 14, so I'm going to go ahead and circle step 1 because that's the incorrect problem. Number 2. We have a student that got grades of 82, 74, and 78 on 3 tests, and we want to know what grade would be needed to get the average to at least 80. Looks like it's probably not there right now since we have 2 scores under 80 and 82 is not that far above it. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. To find an average, we would add the items together, so 82 plus 74 plus 78. So those would be the 3 tests I know about, and we are going to take one more. Divide by the number of tests that we will eventually have, which will be 4, and then at least means we are okay with more or exactly, but not less. So we want greater than or equal to 80. All right, I want to get rid of this 4. So in one step, I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 4. And I'm also going to add these 3 numbers together just to save a little bit of time. So 82, 74, and 78 gives me 234. So I have 234 plus x is greater than or equal to 320. All right. Now I just need to subtract the 234 from both sides, and I'm going to be at my answer. So x is greater than or equal to the result of what we have right there. So that's going to be an 86. So 86 is what we need to get that score up to 80, which shouldn't be a big surprise because only one of these scores is above 80, and it's not that much above 80, so we need to get it more substantially above 80. All right, number 3 is a literal equation. This time we want to solve for x. So the first step is going to be to get the term involving the x all by itself. So right now I've got this 5y. So it's positive, so I'm going to subtract 5y from both sides. That would make it go away, although it's not really going away, it's just going to the other side. All right, so I have negative 4x is equal to 12 minus 5y, and now I want to get that x term by itself, and it's being multiplied by negative 4, and the opposite of that would be division. So I'm going to divide by negative 4, and that'll give me my answer. X is equal to, well, 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. Negative divided by negative is positive, so 5/4 y. Keep in mind, it could also be written as 5/4 y minus 3. Either one of these is fine. You just have to look at your answer key and be prepared to answer one or the other. Number 4 isn't the absolute value problem. So I'm going to go ahead and write this again over here, because these tend to take a little more time or space than you would think in the beginning. So the first step is I'm going to go ahead and add 12 to both sides. That'll cancel out the 12s and leave me with 3 times the absolute value of x plus 6 is equal to 33. Here's where some students will try to distribute, but please don't. You would if that was parentheses, but right now, please don't. Just go ahead and divide by 3, and you're going to get the absolute value of x plus 6 is equal to 11. Okay, I'm out of space there, so I'll just draw that in. So remember, absolute value means distance from 0. So this term is either at positive 11 or at negative 11. They're both 11 units from 0. So I have to write both of those possibilities down. It's x plus 6 is 11, or x plus 6 is negative 11. Now we only have one thing to do to both sides, and that's going to be to subtract 6. I can do it all together right here. Notice before I continue, the only difference between the two sides is the right side of the equation. Positive 11, negative 11. The x plus 6 stays the same. So on the left, we have 11 minus 6, which is 5. And on the right, we've got negative 17. Notice they do not have to be opposites of each other. They do sometimes, one is positive and one is negative, but it doesn't have to be that way. All right, next one is what is the solution to this inequality? And we have to do a couple things. And first off, I'm going to go ahead and just highlight something here. I need to get that by itself. So it's being subtracted by 1, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Okay, so I now have negative 4b is less than or equal to 7 plus 1, which is 8. So now I have to get the b by itself. So it's being multiplied by 4. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4. Actually, negative 4. That is going to give me a b, and on the other side it's a negative 2, but the other thing is it will also cause that middle symbol to flip. I talked about that on my other video. So it's b is greater than or equal to negative 2. Now I think I have time to fit in the others, so I'm going to keep on going on this one. So here we need to get this into slope-intercept form. So our goal is y is equal to mx plus b. So in other words, solve for y. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and write this in. X minus 2y is equal to negative 6. So the x I want on the other side. All right, so that canceled. I got negative 2y is equal to, they're both, the negative 6 is first, but I want the x term first. Notice everything's negative. In a moment, everything's going to be positive, because I'm going to divide by negative 2 to get y by itself. So we'll have y is equal to, oh, what do I do here? That's really a 1 right there. Negative 1 divided by negative 2 is 1/2. So I'm going to write that as 1/2 x. Negative 6 divided by negative 2 is positive 3. So that's really what I have to graph right there. And that's not bad, because that means my slope is rise of 1, run of 2, and my y-intercept is 3. Okay, so on my graph right here, here's my origin. So up 1, 2, 3, and then rise of 1, run of 2. I like to do a couple of them just to have some more points there, and in case I made a mistake on one of them, it's real obvious. So there is that line. All right, number 7. If you take a look at this, you're going to notice that the y's are going to cancel. So these are opposites of each other. So if you add these together, remember that's a 1 right there, add them together, you're going to get negative 15x is equal to negative 30. Well, just divide both sides by negative 15, and you're going to get a 2. I'm almost done already. So I'm going to take that first equation there that was x plus 4y is equal to 22, and I'm going to plug in that 2 right there. So it's 2 plus 4y is equal to 22. Subtract both sides by that 2, and then divide by 4. Okay, I knew I was going to run out of time, so I wasn't writing in what I was doing. So subtract 2 from both sides, divide by 4 from both sides. So my two answers, 2 and 5, remember they go together. It's an ordered pair. Order is important. The x and then the y. So there is my answer right there. All right, moving on to 8 and 9. These are the ones where we have to find the x and y intercepts. I did make the same equation on both of these. So for the x-intercept, we're going to set y equal to 0. And for the y-intercept, we're going to set x equal to 0. That's really all we're doing here. When I do this on my own, I might even just kind of ignore this or scribble it out. I won't do that here, though. So I'll say 5x plus 2 times 0 is equal to 10. So that's 0, so it becomes 5x is equal to 10, or x is equal to a 2. Down here becomes 5 times 0 plus 2y is equal to 10, which is 2y is equal to 10, so y would be equal to 5. Move that up just a little bit so you can see the answer. I have one more, and that's number 10, and let me move it up so you can see this. Now, it says they're giving us a point, and they're also giving us slope. So it makes sense that we would use something called point-slope form. So I'll write that right here. Point-slope form. Okay? Whenever they give you those two things, it makes perfect sense to go ahead and use this. I like to write down formulas if I'm going to use them. That way, there's much less chance that I'll forget putting something in. Now, before I just plug things in, like what am I plugging in here? So remember, an ordered pair is x and y, and this is, you can think of this as my first point. It's really my only point, but so that means I'll do this off to the side. X sub 1, that's going to be the 3. Y sub 1 is going to be the 5, and then the slope is 4. I just have to plug those things in. So y minus 5 is equal to the slope times x minus 3. Now, if your answers have it in point-slope form, you're done. But if it's solved for y, that's in slope-intercept form. So we'd want to go a little bit further. So I'm going to keep the left side alone, distribute the 4, like so, and then add 5 to both sides to give me y is equal to 4x, and then we'll have, whoops, I said plus, so I'm going to say plus negative. I meant to say minus 7, but I had already started my plus. So this is one way to write this equation. It's equivalent to this, so it really just depends on what your possible choices are on your answer key.